The night the world burned, the screen opens on a heavy, charcoal grey sky over London. Rain isn't falling, it's drowning the city. We see the Vane Manor, a fortress of limestone and glass, standing cold against the fog. Most people think power is found in a bank account or at the end of a barrel. They're wrong. True power is knowing who will stay when the walls start to melt. At 2 a.m., Silas Vane, the man they call the Iron Fixer of London, was 300 miles away, ending a life that had become an inconvenience. He thought his legacy was safe behind 3 inches of reinforced steel and 20 armed guards. He was wrong. Cut to inside the manor. The silence is thick. We see Bianca Vane standing in her walk-in closet. She isn't looking at the nursery monitors. She is stuffing a leather duffel bag with diamond necklaces and gold bars. In the background, a faint, high-pitched hiss of a gas leak begins while the Queen of the Vane Empire was choosing which carrots to save, and nobody was scrubbing the floors of the East Wing. Ilara. A maid who hadn't spoken a single word in 2 years. A ghost in a grey uniform. Ilara. She is in the laundry room, her movements mechanical. Suddenly, she stops. She sniffs the air. It's not the smell of detergent. It's sulfur. It's death. Suddenly, boom. An explosion rocks the manor. Glass shatters like diamonds. The screen turns orange. Fire begins to climb the walls of the nursery wing. The security alarms didn't go off. The sprinklers stayed dry. The betrayal was internal, cold, and calculated. Bianca Vane didn't even look toward the nursery. She stepped into her Audi, the headlights cutting through the smoke, and drove away before the first flame touched her children's cribs. Action. Ilara is thrown against a wall by the blast. Her ears are ringing. She sees the guards running out of the house, shouting about an ambush. No one is going up. Ilara looks at the staircase. It's a literal pillar of fire. Ilara, voiceover/thought they are just babies. They don't know that the world is cruel yet. They shouldn't have to find out tonight. Ilara grabs a heavy wool rug from the hallway. She dunks it into a decorative marble vase filled with rainwater. She throws the soaking, heavy fabric over her head and sprints, not toward the exit, but straight into the furnace. The nursery. The ceiling is groaning. Smoke is a thick, black velvet that chokes the lungs. Milo and June, the 3-year-old twins, are huddled under a small wooden table, screaming until their voices break. The door is kicked open. Ilara collapses into the room, her skin blistering instantly from the radiant heat. She can't breathe. She reaches for them. Ilara, a rasping, broken voice, the first time she has spoken in years. I have you. The courtyard. Silas Vane's convoy screeches to a halt. He jumps out before the car stops. He sees his home, the symbol of his reign, engulfed in flames. He sees his guard standing helpless. He sees Bianca's car missing from the garage. Silas, a roar that silences the sirens. Where are my children? Marcus, head guard, boss, the East Wing is gone. No one could survive that. We're sorry. Silas lunges for the door, but 3 men hold him back. He is fighting like a wounded animal. Suddenly, the front doors of the manor, charred and blackened, are kicked open from the inside. A figure stumbles out. It doesn't look human. It's a bundle of wet, scorched wool. Ilara falls to the wet cobblestones, sliding on her knees. She unwraps the rug. Milo and June crawl out, coughing, crying, but alive. Silas freezes. He falls to his knees in the mud. He gathers his children to his chest, his face buried in their soot-stained hair. For the first time in his life, the Iron Fixer is shaking. Silas Vane looked up. He didn't look at his guards. He didn't look at his burning millions. He looked at the girl on the ground. Her uniform was melted to her skin. Her hands were raw. She was a nobody. A maid. A ghost. The Ghost in the Glass Suite. The scene opens with a sharp, sterile contrast. The orange fire of Chapter 1 is replaced by the cold, bluish-white light of a private hospital wing. Monitors beep, steady, rhythmic, like a ticking clock in Silas Vane's world. Everything has a price. A life. A secret. A betrayal. He had spent 3 hours watching the smoke rise from his estate from a distance, but he spent the last 6 hours staring at the heart rate monitor of a girl who shouldn't have survived. Cut to the intensive care room. Elara lies in a bed that looks too large for her. Her arms are wrapped in thick, white gauze. Her face is clean now, revealing a haunting, delicate beauty that was hidden under the soot and the Maid persona. Silas sits in a leather chair in the corner. He hasn't changed his clothes. The scent of smoke still clings to his hair. He is holding a tablet, scrolling through. Elara's employee fills Silas a low, dangerous grow. Ray Sullivan. No family. No fingerprints on file. Hired through a shell agency that went bankrupt 2 months ago. You're a ghost, Elara. And I don't like ghosts in my house. Action. There is a soft knock. Marcus enters. He looks shaken. He hands Silas a small, scorched metal box. Marcus, boss. We found this in the laundry room floorboards. It was under her cot. The fire didn't reach it, but the heat warped the lock. Silas takes a pocketknife and pries the box open. Inside isn't money. It's a single, heavy gold signet ring with a crest, a coiled viper. Silas freezes. His eyes go dark. Silas, the Moretti crest. This girl, she isn't just a maid. She's a prize. Cut to the nursery wing of the hospital. Milo and June are sitting on a bed, eating apple slices. They are physically fine, but they won't let go of a charred, one-eared teddy bear. Bianca Vane bursts into the room. She is perfectly dressed, smelling of expensive lilies, her eyes dry. She reaches for Milo, putting on a show for the guards. Bianca, oh, my poor baby, mommy is here. I was so scared, I had to drive for help. The cell towers were down. Milo pulls away. He hides behind a nurse. June points a tiny finger at the door. June, whispering, not mommy. The fire lady. Where is the fire lady? Bianca's face turns into a mask of cold fury. She turns to see Silas standing in the doorway. He has heard everything. Action. Silas walks toward Bianca. He doesn't raise his voice, which makes it worse. The guards step back. Silas, the fire lady is in surgery. Bianca. While you were counting your necklaces in the driveway, she was breathing in the skin of my children. You didn't drive for help. You drove to your lover's penthouse in Chelsea. I tracked your GPS. Bianca, stammering. Silas, you don't understand, the house was a death trap. The marriage is over. You'll leave London tonight. If I see you near the twins again, I'll forget that we ever shared a name. Get out. Cut back to Elara's room. Elara's eyes flutter open. She sees Silas standing over her. She tries to sit up, but gasps in pain. Don't. The doctor said you're a miracle, Elara. Or should I call you Principessa Moretti? Elara pales. She tries to speak, her voice a dry rasp. Elara, I'm nobody. Please. I just wanted to save them. Leaning in close, his shadow falling over her. You saved the heirs to the Vane throne. That makes you the most valuable person in this city. And the most hunted. Your father, Lorenzo Moretti, thinks you died 10 years ago. If he finds out you're alive, he'll burn this whole city to get you back. Elara, then let me go. I'll vanish again. He reaches out, his thumb tracing the edge of her jaw, a strange, flickering heat in his eyes. No. You walked into a fire for my blood. Now, my blood belongs to you. You aren't going anywhere, Elara. You're moving into the West Wing. And from now on, you aren't the maid. You're the reason I'm going to war. Action. Outside the hospital, a black sedan sits in the shadows. A man in a gray suit looks through binoculars at Ilara's window. He picks up a burner phone. Gray suit, I found her. She's with Vane. And a modern fortress hidden in the lush hills of the English countryside. Heavily armed men in black tactical gear patrol the perimeter. This isn't a home, it's a sanctuary built for war. Being a maid is easy. You're a shadow. You're invisible. But being the woman who holds the debt of Silas Vane is a different kind of prison. In the old manor, Ilara carried laundry. In this house, she carries the weight of a secret that could turn the city to ash. Cut to the grand dining room. Ilara is sitting at a long mahogany table. She is wearing a silk dress the color of a bruise, deep purple. It covers the bandages on her arms. But she feels the silk rubbing against her raw skin. She looks uncomfortable, her hands trembling as she holds a silver fork. Sits at the head of the table. He isn't eating. He is watching her with the intensity of a predator who has finally caught something he doesn't know how to tame. Silas, you've barely touched your food, Ilara. My chef is the best in Europe. If you don't like it, I'll hire a new one by dessert. Ilara, voice still soft and raspy, it's not the food, Mr. Vane. It's the silence. I'm used to the sound of the kitchen. The humming of the machines. Here, I can hear my own heartbeat. It's too loud. In this world, silence is a luxury. And it's no longer Mr. Vane. To the staff, you are a guest of the highest order. To me, you are the reason I haven't killed everyone who failed me on the night of the fire. The doors swing open. Barrett, Silas's trusted lieutenant, enters. He looks tense. He leans in and whispers something to Silas. Silas's expression doesn't change, but his grip on his wine glass tightens until the stem looks ready to snap. Silas, bring them in. Now. 3 men are pushed into the room. They are Silas's inner circle, men who handle the docks and the money. They look at Ilara with confusion and a hint of mockery. Syndicate member. Vico, boss, we heard the rumors. You're keeping a servant in the West Wing. We have a war brewing with the Morettis, and you're playing house with a girl who scrubs toilets. Cut to Silas. He stands up slowly. The air in the room turns to ice. He walks toward Vico, his step silent. Silas, this girl walked through a wall of fire that made my trained soldiers run for their lives. She saved the Vane heirs while you were monitoring the security feeds that mysteriously went dark. Silas grabs Vico by the throat, slamming him against the mahogany table. Plates shatter. Ilara flinches, but she doesn't look away. Silas, she is a Moretti by blood, but she is a Vane by fire. If any of you look at her with anything less than absolute reverence, I will show you exactly how hot that fire was. Do I make myself clear? The men nod frantically. Silas releases him and smooths his suit jacket as if he hadn't just nearly crushed a man's windpipe. Cut to later that night. Ilara is in the nursery. Milo and June are asleep. She is humming a low, Italian lullaby, one she hasn't thought of in a decade. She doesn't hear Silas enter. Silas, that song. My mother used to sing it. It's from the south of Italy. From the Viper's territory. Ilara, turning around, her eyes wet. My father used to sing it before he decided I was a disappointment. He wanted a son to lead his armies. He got a daughter who liked to read. He thought he burned me out of his life 10 years ago. Silas, he didn't burn you, Ilara. He tempered you. You're stronger than any soldier I have. Silas steps closer. He reaches out and gently touches the emerald ring on her finger, the one he gave her to replace the Moretti signet. It's a mark of his protection. Silas, the Morettis are moving their fleets. They think I'm weak because I lost my home. They're coming for you, Ilara. They think you're a ghost they can finally lay to rest. Ilara, what are you going to do? Silas, his eyes flash with a dark, going to let them come. And when they step onto my land, I'm going to show them that you aren't the girl who ran away. You're the woman who belongs to the King of London. And I never lose what belongs to me. A final shot of the estate gates. A red laser dot appears on the stone pillar. It lingers for a moment, then disappears into the trees. Next step, would you like me to write chapter 4, where the Moretti clan launches a night raid and Elara has to use the stomp and run technique for the sound of the serpent? The scene opens with the ticking of a grandfather clock in the dark hallway of the secondary estate. It's 3:15 a.m. Outside, the wind howls through the pine trees, but something else is moving, black shapes cutting through the security perimeter like ink in water. Vane built his world on the belief that he could control every variable. But Elara knew better. She grew up in a house where the walls had ears and the shadows had knives. Tonight, the past isn't just knocking on the door. It's breaking it down. Cut to the nursery. Elara is bolt upright in her bed next to the twins. She doesn't hear a scream. She hears a click. The sound of a silenced pistol cycling around in the hallway. Her heart hammers against her ribs, but she doesn't panic. She moves. Elara slides out of bed and moves to Milo and June. She puts her hand over Milo's mouth before he can wake up and cry. She whispers into his ear, "Elara, Milo, remember the game? The quiet mouse game? We have to go to the secret room. Right now." Cut to the hallway. Two men in tactical gear with Moretti Viper patches on their shoulders creep toward the door. Suddenly, the door explodes outward. Not from a bomb, but from Silas, who has come up the service stairs. He is a blur of violence, dropping the first man with a brutal strike to the throat, engages the second man in a frantic, close-quarters struggle. He looks toward the nursery door. Elara. The basement. Cut to the back stairs. Elara is carrying June on her hip and pulling Milo by the hand. They hit the kitchen floor when a third intruder, large, scarred, and wearing a cruel smirk, steps from behind the industrial refrigerator. It's Harland Voss, the man who betrayed Silas's father years ago. "Harland, found you, little bird. Lorenzo Moretti wants his property back. Move aside, and maybe I won't have to hurt the runts." Harland lunges. He grabs Elara's arm, his fingers digging into the fresh scars. Elara gasps in pain, her vision blurring. But then, she remembers the kitchen at the old manor. She remembers Gus Peralta's rough voice, "Don't twist. Don't punch. Stomp." Elara plants her left foot and brings her right heel down with every ounce of terror and love she has. Crack. The sound of Harland's metatarsals shattering echoes in the kitchen. He howls, his grip loosening. "Elara," her voice cold and steady, "I am not property." As Harland stumbles, Elara grabs a heavy cast-iron skillet from the counter and swings with a scream, connecting squarely with his temple. He drops like a stone. She doesn't wait to see if he's breathing. She grabs the twins and disappears into the basement safe room. Elara slams the steel door and punches in the code, 1-0-0-3. The locks hiss shut. She collapses against the door, sliding down to the floor, gasping for air. Milo and June huddle against her, trembling. For 10 years, Elara Moretti ran. She hid in laundry rooms and scrubbed floors to avoid the violence of her name. But tonight, she realized you can't wash away a viper's blood. You can only use it to poison your enemies. The garage and Barrett have cleared the house. They stand over the remaining intruders. Silas looks at the trail of blood leading from the kitchen to the basement. He sees Harland Voss unconscious on the floor with a broken foot and a shattered ego. Barrett, wiping blood from his forehead, iron skillet, then at the basement door. A small, dark smile touches his lips, the first real smile he's had in months. "That I told you, Barrett. She isn't a maid. She's the heartbeat of this house." Silas walks to the safe room door. He knocks 3 times, the signal. The door opens. Elara stands there, disheveled, her emerald ring glinting in the dim light. Silas reaches out, pulling all 3 of them into his arms. "Silas, it's over for tonight, Elara. But your father knows where you are now. He's going to send everything he has." "Elara, looking up at him, her eyes fierce. Then let him. I'm tired of running, Silas. If he wants a war, let's give him one he can't survive. Final shot of the London skyline. A massive explosion rocks a Moretti-owned warehouse at the docks. The Vane Empire isn't defending anymore. They're attacking. In the Mafia, you are either the hammer or the nail. For 10 years, Elara Moretti was the nail, hammered into the shadows until she vanished. But tonight, she isn't arriving as a runaway. She is arriving as the guest of honor at her own execution, or her coronation, inside the glass hall. Silas Vane stands at the head of a massive triangular table. He looks like a king carved from obsidian. Beside him is an empty chair, velvet, gold-trimmed, and positioned exactly level with his own. The other bosses whisper, their eyes darting to the empty seat. Lorenzo Moretti, Elara's father, his voice like dry parchment. You summoned us here to discuss territory, Silas. But you bring a ghost to the table. Give me my daughter, and I will let you keep London. Refuse, and I will turn your empire into a cemetery. The heavy oak doors at the end of the hall swing open. Elara enters. She is no longer wearing the muted purple of a guest. She is in a gown of crimson silk, the color of fresh blood. Her hair is swept up, exposing the silver burn scars on her neck and shoulders, worn like medals of war. She walks with a steady, haunting grace. She doesn't look at the guards. She doesn't look at the weapons. She looks directly at her father. Elara, you always told me that the Moretti blood was too thick to be spilled by a girl. You were right, father. It didn't spill. It turned into steel. Elara sits in the chair beside Silas. She places her hand on the table, the emerald vein ring catching the light. The room goes deathly silent. Lorenzo, you are a maid, Elara. You scrubbed floors for this man. You have no seat here. Silas, his voice dropping to a dangerous, vibrating low. She didn't scrub floors, Lorenzo. She cleaned the rot out of my house. She faced the fire your coward started and walked out with my legacy in her arms. In London, we don't bow to names. We bow to the person who stays when the world is burning. Cut to the conflict. Lorenzo signals his men. Guns are drawn in a heartbeat. The glass hall becomes a standoff. But Elara doesn't flinch. She reaches into her small silk clutch and pulls out a single, ancient-looking USB drive. Elara, father, while I was scrubbing floors, I was also listening. I know about the Zurich accounts you hid from the other 4 families. I know about the shipment you intercepted from the Castellanos last spring. If a single shot is fired in this room, every boss at this table gets a copy of your ledger. The other bosses turn their gaze toward Lorenzo. The air in the room shifts. The hunter has become the prey. Silas stands, his hand resting on the back of Elara's chair. He looks at the assembly. The Moretti line is finished. Lorenzo is retired. Effective immediately. Elara will take his seat. Not as a puppet, but as the first queen of the United Syndicate. Any objections? Silence. One by one, the other bosses lower their weapons. They recognize the new order. They recognize the woman who walked through hell and came back with the keys. Cut to, later that night. The balcony overlooking the Alps. The twins, Milo and June, are asleep in the SUV nearby, guarded by Barrett. Silas stands behind Elara, wrapping his coat around her shoulders to shield her from the mountain chill. Silas, you did it. You broke him without firing a single bullet. Elara, I didn't break him, Silas. I just stopped being afraid of him. There's a difference. Silas turns her toward him. He looks at the girl who was once a mute maid and sees the woman who saved his soul. He kisses her, not a kiss of possession, but one of equal partnership. Silas, so, what's the first order of the new queen? Elara, looking out at the horizon, a small, triumphant smile on her lips. Burn the old ledgers. We're building something new. And this time, we're doing it for the children. The legacy of Ash and the reconstruction of the Vane estate is complete. It isn't a dark fortress anymore, the East Wing has been rebuilt with floor-to-ceiling glass, allowing the London sun to pour into a massive, state-of-the-art nursery. Fire is a curious thing. It destroys, yes. But in the underworld, it's the only way to purify the gold. 1 year ago, the Vane name was a curse whispered in the shadows. Today, it's a promise. A promise that no one, not a traitor, not a rival, and certainly not a ghost, is left behind. The garden. Milo and June are running through a labyrinth of white roses. They look healthy, happy, and loud. Milo is wearing a tiny blazer, and June is clutching a brand new teddy bear. Though the charred, one-eared Mr. Buttons sits in a glass display case in the library like a holy relic. Elara stands on the patio, watching them. She wears a simple white sundress. Her silver scars are visible on her arms, no longer hidden by silk or velvet. She doesn't look like a Mafia queen, she looks like a woman who is finally at peace. Silas walks up behind her. He doesn't have his gun. He doesn't have his phone. He has a small, hand-drawn picture from Milo. He wraps his arms around Elara's waist and rests his chin on her shoulder. Silas, the Moretti assets were fully liquidated this morning. The Zurich fund you seized. It's been officially moved into a trust for the children's education. And for the orphanage in Portland where you grew up, Elara, good. That money was covered in soot for too long, Silas. It's time it did something that doesn't involve a funeral, Silas, turning her to face him, his eyes softer than they've ever been. You changed everything, Elara. Not just the maps. You changed me. I used to think my legacy was a pile of stones and a list of names. Now I know it's just this. This moment. The conflict resolution. We see a montage of the remaining traitors. Bianca is seen in a small, drab apartment in a distant city, looking at a tabloid of Silas and Elara, her hands shaking. Harland Voss is seen behind bars, his shattered foot causing him to limp as he's led to a cell. The world has moved on without them. The evening. A formal dinner is held, but it's intimate. Only the inner circle, Barrett, Marcus, and Gus. They raise their glasses not to a boss, but to a family. Barrett, to the woman who taught us that the strongest weapon in London isn't a bullet, it's a nanny with a cast-iron skillet. Laughter fills the room. Elara smiles, catching Silas's eye. She leans in and whispers. Elara, I have one more secret, Silas. One I didn't find in a ledger. Silas, his heart skips a beat. Tell me. Elara, the twins. They're going to need a bigger nursery. We're going to have a new Vane by Christmas. Silas freezes. A look of pure, unadulterated joy breaks across his face, a look no enemy would ever believe possible. He picks her up, spinning her around as the children run over to join the hug. They say the ashes of the old world are what make the soil of the new world so rich. Elara Moretti started as a girl who was afraid of the dark. She became a woman who owned the fire. And as the sun sets over the new Vane estate, one thing is certain, the Viper is dead. The Maid is gone. And the Queen, she is